Hi, this is Richard here. So I've done a series of videos covering all aspects of pike fishing, and I've called it Pike Guide and Tips. It's been a series of videos that I've hoped that it's helped beginners and also anybody who goes out doing pike fishing. I hope you still found it enjoyable. This is going to be a video where it's going to be all day videos put together with a few extra clips. I hope you've found these videos enjoyable, and tight lines till next time. So in today's video I'm going to talk about nets. I'm going to talk about my personal preference on what size of net and type of net that I would use when dead baiting for the pike. You're going to need a large net. This one here is 42 inch, it's a rubber mesh, and it's also what they call wide gape, which means it's big holes in the gaps of the netting. Being rubber, it's going to make it a bit softer on the pike. Also, pike have got a protective slime on their body. Being rubber, it's going to help keep that on the pike and not rub it off. One other thing when it comes to the rubber mesh netting, it's less likely for the hook to get stuck in the net. If you're using, say, a fabric net that you use when you're carp fishing, the barbs or even the hook is going to get caught in that fabric, and if the pike roll, it's going to get tangled up in that, and it makes it 10 times harder to get the pike out of the net. You'll probably end up having to cut the net if it's a fabric one. Whereas being a rubber mesh wide gape, if the pike rolls in the net and there is a hook shown, it's less likely to get caught up in that type of net. So a large 42 inch rubber mesh wide gape net is what you really need. So in this video I'm going to talk about rods and reels and how I set it up. To keep things simple, I'm going to break it down to two things. When it comes to the rods, you're either going to need a 10-foot rod or a 12-foot rod. When it's dead baiting for pike, it's a 3.5 pound test curve. So it's really down to your own personal preference on what one of the two you use. I prefer using a 10-foot, but that's just because of the locations that I fish. It's a lot of overhanging trees and it's hard to get a cast in with a 12-foot rod in some of the places that I fish. Also, when it comes to transporting, a 12-foot rod can be a bit big in some cars. So either use a 10-foot rod or a 12-foot rod, 3.5 pound test curve. My rod here is a 10-foot, 3.5 pound test curve, size 60 bait runner. It's then down to 50 pound braid. Down at the business end, it's a through line clip down to a bead, just basically to protect the knot, and then down to a clip. You've also got to make sure this is through line, so if your line does snap, it means this weight can come off your line. It means the fish isn't swimming around with a weight attached to it. That's called a death rig if it is attached to it. So your weight has to be through line so the weight can come off, and that's how I've set up my rod and also my reel. Hope this helps. In this video I'm going to talk about bait, but also what I'm going to talk about is what I use to get a bait where I want it. So anybody that knows me knows I like using my gadgets, so I like using the bait boat. The reason for the bait boat is a lot of places that I fish, it's hard to get a cast in because of overhanging trees and stuff like that. So the bait boat makes it a lot easier to get that bait directly where you want. So I think it's a good wee bit of kit to have. It means you can, like I say, you can get that bait directly where you want it, and 9 times out of 10 you can actually get the bait boat a further distance than you can cast, so it's actually quite good for that purpose also. But as for baits, most of the baits that I like using is trout, lamprey, smelt, mackerel, things like this, things that's going to give you a strong scent. I also like using different scent attractions by using different bait oils and stuff like that. All these type of things work really well. And now what I'm going to do is show you how you put your dead bait on a hook. So in this part of the video I'm going to show you how you put your dead bait wire trace on a dead bait. Things you're going to need: bait elastic. You're also going to need your bait, obviously, and then your rig bin with your wire traces, and either scissors or a knife to open up your bait. Also, when you're using a knife, be careful when you're doing this, because you don't want to cut yourself. I've done it in the past, trust me, it's not nice. And this one I'm just going to use a bit of mackerel. So with this bit of dead bait I've got here, it's actually a reasonable size, but what I always do first, I put the hook in the tail first. So first hook goes in the tail, And I always put that in first there, because there's a wee bit of spinal bone there, and the hook placement goes in there, and this makes a bit more a solid hook up, because this is where most of the pressure is going to be on when you're casting out. And then the other hook, I put both prongs of the hook in, so you've only got one there shown, as you can see. Once you do that, it's just a case of getting a bit of elastic, and then just put a wee bit on. The bit of elastic's just to hold the hook in place, so when you're casting out, it doesn't come off. You don't need a lot, just enough to hold the hook in place. I tend to just do one at each hook, just a few turns, just enough to hold it in place. So that's how I set up my deadbait wire trace with the deadbait. When it comes to using your wire traces, you're going to need something to hold the wire traces in, so you can use like different types of rig bins and stuff like that. The one I've got here, as you can see, is quite good because it means you can pin in your wire trace. It keeps it straight, it means the wire's not getting bent, and it's a good way of storing it. And also, when you get home, make sure you dry them out after using them, because the last thing you want to do is get mould growing in one of these type of rig bins, because you end up just ruining it. So that's a wee bit of tip from experience that I've learned. Make sure you clean them after you use them, and make sure you dry them out. One other thing you're going to need is a good syringe. So get yourself a good syringe. There's different kits out there you can get, but this is the kit that I'm using. I find it quite useful. So in this video I'm going to try and explain a bit better how to tighten your line up to your weight, talk about bait alarms, and also try to explain as best I can how the bait runner reel works. So starting off at the back here, you've got your backdrop indicator. When the pike picks up your bait and swims towards you, this will drop down. Also at the front, you've also got your bait alarm. That's going to tell you when the pike picks up your bait and runs with the line. So you've got your front drag, and then you've got your rear drag. You've also got your clip set for your rear drag here, but first what you're going to do is adjust the front drag. The front drag is when the pike takes a bait and starts running. When you strike into the fish, basically what you want to do is have this set correct so that it's got enough slack in the line that it can run with the bait if it wants to run, and then as soon as it stops running you can reel to bring the fish in. So you want to have it set so the tension is not too slack but not too tight, so you don't bully the fish in. So you adjust the first drag first. Once you've got that set to correct tension, the next bit you're going to adjust is your rear drag. The rear drag is so it's what they call a bait runner, so it can run freely. So what you're going to do is next, you're going to turn your rear drag to slack. So just had a wee jack pike there. I'm going to cast this bait back out, still in reasonable condition, and I'm going to show you how I set the drag on my bait runner, but I'm also going to show you how to get your tight lines to your weight. On this one, it's just a 2 ounce weight. I'm not going to cast out far, as you'll see. So as you can see, I've not cast it out far, probably about 20 yards. At this point what I'm going to do is close my bail arm, and I'm slowly going to just bring up a bit of slack line. I'm going to adjust my drag. As you can see, it's pretty tight. So very slowly what I'm going to do is just bring in the slack line till I feel my line getting tight to the weight. As you can see with the rod tip, it's bouncing, and that's because the line's completely tight to that weight, and I now know where the wire trace is to the bait. I know it's all completely tight. At this point what I'm going to do is just take the bail arm off, walk back to my rod rest. So I've now walked back to my rod rest. I'm just going to quickly tighten up that line to the weight. As you can see, the rod tip's starting to slightly bend a wee bit. My line's completely tight to that weight. I'm then going to put it on my rod rest. Make sure my line's completely tight. As you can see, the rod tip bent to the right a wee bit. My line is completely tight to that weight, so I know where the wire trace is. I know where my bait is. It's completely tight. As soon as that line starts to go, as soon as I get a bite, I'm going to know because the line's tight. So the best way to know when you get bites is your bait alarm and the backdrop indicator, which is on the floor moment. I'll show you how to do that first. But before that, you need to adjust your bait runner. So this reel here has got a drag at the front, and it's also got a drag at the back. What you want to do is control and adjust the drag at the front. When you get a fish on and it starts running with your line, you want this to be set so when you strike into the fish, it's ready. So if the fish wants to take the line, it's still got enough slack that it can take the line out, but it's not too slack, so you can still play the fish. You want a wee bit of tension still to be on it, so that when the fish doesn't run, you can then bring the fish in and play the fish. I'm hoping that makes sense. So to adjust the front drag, you just make sure that the tension's correct. I've left it tight, as you've already seen. So all I'm going to do at this point is just slacken it off. See, it's still too tight. I'm just going to slack off. So it's slacker now, but that's a bit too slack, so I'm going to then tighten it back up. At this point it's too tight, so it's just a case of adjusting it. So at this tension, it's set at the right tension, so if the fish takes the bait and it wants to run with the bait, it can still take line out. As soon as it stops running, you can then reel and bring the fish in. Now that the front drag's set, it's a case of controlling the rear drag. This is your bait runner part. So this is the part that's going to work to let your line run free. So what you do at this point, your bait runner clip, you put that up, that then switches it from the front drag to the rear drag. That then lets this take your line out. So if I bring that towards me, that's making it slack so I can have it free running. As you can see, that was completely slack. So that means now that the clip's up on your bait runner, it means the pike can take the line completely without any resistance. So as soon as the fish starts taking your line will be going out. You lift up your rod, you strike into the fish. As soon as you start winding down, as you see, it's switched from your rear drag, which is just giving it free line to let it run. It then switches back to the front drag, which is set to play the fish. That's how your bait runner works. I hope this video's been helpful. So I've now got the reel set, as I said. I've got the rear drag set, I've got it clip up so the line's free run to take the line. So the next bit is your backdrop indicator. As you can see, I've put it into position, I've moved up and I've clipped onto the line. This is here, so if the pike picks up your bait and swims towards you, this is going to move down and then put tension on the line and give you an indication that you've got a fish taking your line towards you. So you need a backdrop indicator, that lets you know if the fish is coming towards you with your bait, and your bait alarm at the front is there to let you know if the pikes took your bait and swimming away. And then the last thing to do is just turn on your bait alarm, and as you can hear with that, it almost sounds like saying "I'm on the pike." So just to recap, you've got your bait alarm here out front, that's to let you know when the line's getting took out. You've got your backdrop indicator here, that's to let you know when the bait's getting took towards you. When it comes to your bait runner reel, front drag is set up so to play the fish. So when the fish is taking the line, it's set so it's got enough tension in it that it can take the line out, but at the same time it's not too slack, so when the fish stops running that you cannot bring the fish in. So it needs to be set to the right tension so you can bring the fish in, but with a wee bit of slack still there, that it can take the line out if it wants to run. The rear drag on the bait runner is there so when the clip's up, it makes it completely slack line, so there's no tension on the line, so when the pike picks up the bait, it doesn't feel the tension. The point of the bait runner reel is so the rear drag gives you the free line so the pike can take it, and as soon as you turn the reel, it clicks over and it goes back to the front drag where you then play the fish. I hope this video's been helpful. I'm not an expert, it's probably better people that can explain it better than I can. I'm just trying to help it. So in this video I'm going to talk about bite indication. The main important thing about bite indication is so you can tell straight away when you get a pike going. So one way to make sure you're going to get proper bite indication is by making sure your line's tight. In order to make sure your line's tight, you're going to need a weight. On this rod I'm using a 4 ounce weight. The further the distance you're casting, the heavier weight you need to make sure you get the proper bite indication. What I've done, the way I've set up, it's a through line bead with a clip, and that just means so I can clip on the weight. It means it's free running. The purpose of this, if you do get snapped off, it means the weight's going to come off the line. It means the fish isn't swimming around with a weight attached to it. The purpose of having a weight on your line is so you can tighten up your line to the weight to get proper bite indication, so you know straight away when a fish or a pike is touching that bait. The way that you're going to get that indication is through having bait alarms. You're going to have a bait alarm at the front. That's going to tell you when the line's getting took out. But also, what you're going to need at the back of the rod setup is a backdrop indicator. This is going to indicate when a fish picks the bait up and it swims towards you. So having tight lines down to your weight is going to let you know straight away when you get a bite, with the bait alarm at the front and the backdrop indicator at the back of your rod. So, just to recap on bite indication, what I forgot to mention was the main thing you're needing as well is a good bank stick. You need a good bank stick, you need backdrop indicators, that indicates when the fish is bringing the bait towards you, and you also need bait alarms, so that lets you know when the pike's running with the bait. The main goal for that is as soon as that pike touches that bait, you're going to know, and the way to know is by a weight on your line, tight lines, to a bait alarm and a backdrop indicator. Safety. So some of the equipment you're going to need, as I briefly mentioned in a previous video, which is a rubber mesh net. You need a good size net for the pike, but also what you're going to need is an unhooking mat. I've actually got two here. That's for the add extra cushion, but also if you catch a larger pike, it means I can slide water along under it, and that means that the pike's got constant cover from the ground. When it comes to the tools that you need, it's most important that you have a variety of different tools. So for here I've got braided scissors to cut the braid. I've got different sizes of forceps. I've also got these types of forceps that you can lock. Sometimes that can be useful. Also what you're going to need is something to be able to cut the hooks. So it's good to have a variety of different sizes of equipment tools that you need to safely unhook the pike. Also what I would recommend is getting a sheet like this to put under it for two reasons. If you're in the middle of got a pike, say here, and you're trying to unhook it, you want to be able to see everything clearly, as you can see here. But if I've got this here on the ground, it's hard to see. Whereas if it's on something bright like this, you can easily see it, and it means you can have them open so you can just easily grab it. Also, try and get something that's waterproof, because if it starts raining, it means I can just go like this, fold this over, put something over the top of it, and it keeps them dry. Also what I'd recommend as well, like I said in previous videos, I use different types of bait oils and stuff. Try and keep that separate for a distance away, especially if you're using a knife, because you don't want to have accidents happen and stuff like that. But normally I'll have this a separate distance away. I've only got it here for the video. Other things that you need is a good set of scales so you can weigh your fish. This one I've got your digital version, and then I've got your normal version. The reason I've got it set up like that is just so I can hook it onto the net, weigh the fish, and then reduct the weight of the net off after. Right, you've got this out the road so accidents don't happen, but rig bins are good to keep your wire traces straight, as you can see in that, and also keeps them out the road and keeps them safe. So I hope this video has been helpful. Like I say, when it comes to pike fishing, especially dead baiting, these are parts of the equipment I would say is essential. Proper tools to unhook the pike safely, tools to cut in the hooks, unhooking mat, also a rubber mesh net, and also, like I said, keep your bait oils, syringes and your knives and all that away from that area, because the last thing you want to do is have any accidents happen. And also with the rig bin situation, make sure you don't stand on it like that I did. So in this part of the video I'm going to talk about general tips and advice when it comes to pike fishing, and I'm going to give you 3 tips. The third tip is going to be a method that's going to catch you not only bigger pike, but it's going to catch you a lot more pike. The first tip of today, as I briefly mentioned in one of the previous videos regarding nets, as you can see in this video, the main purpose of having a net as well, and having it large as a 42-inch net, is going to give the pike room to rest. So that's really important as well. When you're playing the fish in, it tires the pike out, but you've also got to take its health into consideration. You've got to give it plenty of time to rest. So having a large 42-inch net gives it plenty of time to rest in the net. Also, when it comes to pike, they like to roll in the net, as you can see in this part of the video. So what I'll do is, on the end of my line I've got a clip going to the wire trace. As soon as the pike's safely in the net and it's safe to do so, and then hooks are not exposed, I'll unclip my line away from the wire trace. The reason for this being is it stops the braid wrapping around the pike and causing damage to the pike. And that means it gets your rod and line out the way, and you're then free to put the pike on, unhook them up and get the hooks out. Tip 2 today is about the rods. As I briefly mentioned about different comparisons of different sizes of rods, the main difference in being what's going to suit the angler's personal preference is basically a 12-foot rod is going to be more suited to get a further distance cast, and it's also better for larger baits. Whereas if you've got a 10-foot rod, that's better suited to smaller baits and if you don't need to cast a far distance. But as I've mentioned before, having a bait boat, you can then get a 10-foot rod and use that to your advantage, because you can then put the bait in the bait boat and send out, so you don't need to really cast with a 10-foot rod. So there's ways around it, but in general a 12-foot rod is better suited to get a further cast and for bigger baits. When it comes to this time of year as well, one of the things you need to take into consideration is how to keep warm. So getting yourself a good bivvy, it's probably recommended trying getting a bivvy with an over up, which is going to then keep heat in the bivvy as well. Also, I've got my thermals on, so keeping warm is going to be essential this time of year. You can use different methods, as in like using like a gas heater, but the problem with that is you need to make sure you've got plenty of ventilation for the fumes, because that can be quite dangerous. In one of the previous videos I was talking about bait runner rails and proper bite indication and stuff like that. There's one other way that you can do it. You can have an open bail arm. The reason for this purpose being is there's going to be less resistance. Also, if you've got your drag set to fully loose, sometimes even if a pike is strong enough and takes a line fast, sometimes it can actually drag your rod. It's happened in the past with people. I've not experienced it, but I do know there's been people out there where their rod's been even dragged in the water because the pike's picked the bait up and run that fast. So having an open bail arm, as you can see in this part of the video, with a proper backdrop indicator, it means you're going to get less resistance, but straight away you're going to be able to see if you get a bite, because the backdrop indicator is going to drop as soon as the line starts going, and also your bait alarm is going to sound as well. Now for tip number 3, it's going to not only catch you more pike, that I believe, but you've stand a good chance of catching bigger pike. In the last few trips that I've been out, the Becker's caught 2 cracking pikes. You've got one at 18.6 and another one at 17 pound odds. The methods on that, it comes down to bait oils. A lot of people have got a theory that it either works or it doesn't. In my opinion, I believe that it does work. And the way to get proper oils to work is to get a better scent. Mix up your bait oils, and also if you've got any blood left over from the packets of dead bait, pour that in. In my tub that I've got a wee bottle of bait oil, and in that tub I've actually got a mackerel head chopped up and in it, so it's fermenting, it's getting a stronger scent. And in my opinion, doing that type of thing is going to get you a lot more scent, it's going to get you more attraction. And what I've found over the years is I've caught a lot more pike doing that method. So bait oils definitely work. Also, as you can see here, if you get any old bait that's got what they call a bit of frostbite to it and it starts to look a bit not the best, you've got these different spray oils that you can use. Not only does it add a bit of colour and brings that dead bait back to looking a bit better, it adds an extra scent as well. So bait oils, injecting your bait, these are something that I find from personal experience catches me a lot more pike. But not only that, you catch a lot bigger pike if you've got a better, stronger scented bait. So when it comes to your bait, I've already stabbed this when it was frozen. Now it's thawed out. It is oozing out a wee bit of natural scent from the actual fish, but you want to increase that by adding in some type of oil. So now that it's thawed out, I'm just going to go to where its stomach is there. I'm just going to inject this with a wee bit. As you can see, it's starting to ooze out where I'd stabbed it earlier. That's enough just to draw the fish in. So I'm now going to put a bit under the skin, and that's what you're looking for. When it comes to your dead bait, not only using pike oils and stuff like that, as other ways that you can present the bait. There's 3 methods that I like. You can either put the dead bait directly on the bottom, which will work perfectly fine. A wee bit of bait oil and stuff like that will be efficient, you'll catch. But there's other ways that you can do it to get a wee bit more advantage. So you can put it on the bottom. The second way is to pop it up. Now when you pop it up, there's 3 different ways that you can do that. You can inject air directly into the stomach, which is then going to be a more natural way to present it to get the bait to float up. You can also use different, for example, you've got this one here which is a foam kit where you put foam in the dead bait. That helps pop it up. A second version to this is where you get the foam and you get like cable ties and you tie it to the dead bait. These 2 ways isn't my personal preference. It does work, it's very efficient, but it's just not my personal preference at the moment. If I'm going to pop it up, I'll either use direct air into the stomach, or you can buy these wee, I forget the name of them, so forgive me, but you can buy these wooden sticks that go into the dead bait and it helps pop it up as well. That I find is a wee bit more effective, and that's more my personal preference at the moment. For the pike is floats. So you've got your floats, you can, different sizes and stuff like that. That's called ledgering. You can do it that type of method where you're using the float as a bite indicator as also. As soon as you see that float under, you know you've got a pike type of thing. You can float, but there's also other types of floats which are called drifter floats. So as it sounds, it'll drift, it'll carry your bait a wee bit of a distance, cover more area, more scent in the water. They tend to be a good effective way of catching pike as well. So the 3 main methods when it comes to dead baiting and presenting your bait: either directly on the bottom, popping it up, or floating it down from the surface on a float. These are all effective ways to fish for the pike, and in my personal opinion, using different scented bait oils is also going to have an advantage as well. The more scent you can get in the water, it's going to draw the fish in. So I hope you've enjoyed this series of pike fishing, and I hope it helps somebody. That's the goal, just try and help. If it helps one person, then it's been a huge success. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Till next time, tight lines, and thanks for watching.